Hi, I'm Kristen Kapler. I'm the school counselor here at Good Shepherd Lutheran School, West Bend, Wisconsin. I'm here today with our DARE officer, Deputy Nias, to talk about internet safety.
Hello, again, my name is Bill Nias. I'm a deputy with the Washington County Sheriff's Department, and I'm also a DARE officer, and I've been the DARE officer here at Good Shepherd Lutheran School for approximately the last 5 years. I've been a deputy with the Sheriff's Department for almost 23 years, and I've done a lot of different presentations about a lot of different things: internet safety, senior safety. I'm also the community relations coordinator for the county, so I do a lot of public relations events for the Sheriff's Department as well. All right, so we're talking about internet safety today, and our definition of internet safety, it includes a protection from harassment, threats, and identity theft, and it maintains privacy online and also a facet of internet safety as children peruse the internet. That's what it says on the slide. It's possible that they will receive exposure to potentially harmful websites depicting pornography and violence. Internet safety protects kids from undesired websites. I looked up recently that the internet, 30% of the entire internet is dedicated to pornography. So even if your child is trying to do some innocuous search, I think you were mentioning to me about a kid was talking about or looking up things on baseball and talked about second base. And when they typed in second base on the internet search, obviously there's going to be some sexual connotations that are brought up with that. And since 1/3 of the internet is dedicated basically to pornography, any search that a child is going to do, sometimes they're going to come up with something that is going to be totally inappropriate for something for somebody that child's age. So just be aware of that when your child is doing some internet searches. So in this video, there's going to be some slides that have pictures of actual local students. And it's not done to embarrass that child or to make them feel bad about something that they did online. It's something that we can use as a learning tool to help children not do some of these things that you're going to see on some of these slides, especially with a child wearing a sweatshirt with the school's name on it, where it's very easy for an internet predator to be able to locate where that child lives based on the school t-shirt that they're wearing, or maybe some landmarks that might be in the background of some of the videos, especially if it's a business that is not a nationally known business and it's something that's local to that community. It's pretty easy for a predator to zero in on where a child lives based on that information. What children do online. I mean, hopefully what they're doing is stuff that's all on the up and up. They're talking about doing internet research for school papers, maybe communicating with some friends, but unfortunately there is a downside to the internet, and that's basically what we're going to be talking about today. So what do they do online? They're visiting virtual worlds, they're playing multiplayer games, they're texting or instant messaging one another. They post their profiles, interact with others on social networking sites. They view and post videos, download music videos, and more. They create and upload art, and obviously they're doing that research for school. How are they getting online? Obviously there's a lot of different electronic devices out there nowadays. They've all got their phones, tablets, laptop computers, desktop computers, many different ways of getting online, including gaming systems like the Xbox Live system and the PlayStation Network. So how that people communicate is really changing. I know when we were kids, it was basically a phone, and it was on a big long cord that was in the kitchen, and you would drag that cord all the way around the house to talk to people on the phone. But nowadays, everything is wireless, and most of the time they're not even talking to people. It's always doing little texting things. They're typing things into their computers. Obviously, we have social networking sites like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and Snapchat, and the users create profiles. And I know that Instagram and Snapchat and TikTok have age limits where the child is supposed to be at least 13 years of age to get on there. And I know that there are kids younger than 13, preteen kids that are getting on these websites because there's really no safety protocols for confirming how old a child is when they're on these websites. So we're getting kids as young as 8, 9, 10 years old that are creating profiles on here and basically falsifying their date of birth so that they're able to get a username and a password and be able to use these websites. It's one of the bad things about these social networking sites is that there really is no age verification process. So hopefully if your children do have some of these social networking sites, you're aware of it and you're able to monitor what they're doing on there. And later on we'll talk about how you can do some of that kind of thing. They're texting, they're instant messaging, and it allows their children to talk with their friends at any time, even though they're not really talking verbally, but they're talking via texting. The texting and instant messaging has replaced email as a preferred method of communication. So it's much quicker than an email. You don't have to log into an email account. It's basically there on their phone at any given moment. We have a lot of video sharing sites like YouTube and Vimeo. And again, talking about the Xbox Live and the PlayStation Network, where kids are able to basically play games with anybody from around the world. And there's a whole lot of trash talking that goes on those games. I know when I talk to my DARE students, if they're on these sites, I said, is there a lot of bullying that happens on there? And 99% of the kids say, oh yeah, there's a whole lot of trash talking, there's a lot of bullying, there's a lot of bad language and things like that on those gaming systems. Now the next slide is kind of an older slide. It says 51% of teens report having done at least one of the following with someone that they do not know personally, like giving the city or town that they live in. They give out their first and their last names, what school they go to, and some of them even give out their personal phone numbers on there. 51% give that information to somebody that they don't know. And I think we're all aware of there's a lot of internet fraud that goes on out there. And this is kind of the first step towards, grooming children into giving out personal information where an online predator can actually get in contact with your child. So, young internet users. It talks about how 94% of young internet users get on the internet at home. They can also do it at school. I mean, most schools have Chromebooks now where the kids have, obviously they have to sign agreements that they, when they're using the Chromebook, that they're not going to go onto inappropriate sites. And a lot of schools have monitoring software and blocking software that keeps the kids from going onto some of the inappropriate sites. However, if they're getting onto it with their personal phone, their own laptop, their own tablet at home, there's really none of that kind of thing installed on the computers unless the parents are installing that themselves, where it blocks the kids from going to these certain websites. Over half of all blogs are maintained by people ages 13 to 19. Apparently they do like to talk, maybe not to their parents, but they are talking to someone, and if it's just a phone or a computer, it's one way for them to have an outlet towards giving out how they're feeling at any given moment. And unfortunately, sometimes they give out a little bit too much information on these video blogs. At any given time, there are 3 to 4 million chat room users. Teenagers spend an average of 1 hour and 35 minutes a day texting. That's just texting, not doing homework or anything else. They average about 118 messages a day. That's a lot of messages. 39% of children on Facebook are under the age of 13. Now that slide is a little bit old. Most of the kids that I talk to nowadays, they don't have a Facebook account. Facebook is for old people. It's for parents, people like you. They are on Instagram and Snapchat and TikTok way more than Facebook. If they do have a Facebook account, it's so that they can get a hold of grandma, because grandma has a Facebook account, right? Internet use good versus bad. It's used for homework, finding useful information, getting news, communicate with family and friends, share pictures with friends, and it's very up to date, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. On the other side, though, we have internet crimes, fraud, identity theft, cyberbullying, sexting, child predators. And these predators most of the time pretend to be somebody that they are not. They create their own profiles just like the kids do to get on these social media sites. So when the predators are on there, they might come up with a totally different persona and pull pictures off the internet to uphold that persona. Like they're pretending to be a 13-year-old girl, when in fact it could possibly be a 45-year-old guy living in his mom's basement. And that is really creepy if you ask me. And if it doesn't scare you, it probably should, because there are a lot of these guys out there. So why are internet crimes popular? There's billions of people that are on the internet. on any given day around the world. And there's a real big sense of anonymity when you're online because people don't know who you really are. And people take advantage of that and they make up whatever they want to make up. The messages are distributed quickly to a large audience. They feel like nobody is watching them because a lot of times nobody is. And it can be really hard to trace the source of these internet things because a lot of times they actually originate from outside the country. And people that are technologically savvy have ways of bouncing their signal all around the planet, and it makes it really difficult to determine where the originating source of those messages are coming from, especially a local law enforcement agency. If something really big is to happen, it may be transferred over to the FBI or some other federal agency that has a little bit more resources to find the source of some of these things. But as far as a local law enforcement agency, it's very difficult for us to track down that final source. Our next slide talks about the top 10 social media sites. Facebook is still number one because all of us old people still have a Facebook account. However, again, it's probably going to kind of be pushed to the side a little bit as some of the younger kids get a little bit older and they're obviously not on Facebook. Then we have YouTube. There's a lot of different social media sites that post videos to YouTube, including kids. Instagram has things on there. I know I've seen a lot of TikTok videos on YouTube. So a lot of those things do get posted to YouTube, which is why it's the number 2 social media site. WhatsApp, Instagram, TikTok. If you notice, TikTok is 5th. And I bet you it's going to be moving up. Snapchat, Reddit, Pinterest. My wife loves Pinterest. She's on there all the time. Twitter and LinkedIn are the top 10 social media sites. However, if you think about it, there's probably a lot more out there that just aren't in the top 10. There are literally hundreds of social media sites out there that are popping up on a daily basis. So even though those are the top 10, you should also look for other logos for social media sites on your kids' devices. So we're going into Facebook. Let's see. There's no censorship. There's adult language and subject matter on Facebook. No image censorship. Users post personal information, hobbies, interests. Unsuitable friends. Does a 13-year-old really need a 26-year-old as a friend? That's something that you really should think about. There's countless evidence of bad behavior, and you don't really know who's watching you. A lot of times when Facebook first came out, a lot of times kids were just trying to get as many followers as they could, as many friends as they could accumulate on this website. And they were inviting people that they didn't know, a lot of people that they didn't know. And again, people make up whatever persona they want to make up on their profile. And there were a lot of incidents where kids were becoming victims to those kinds of people that were becoming their friends just so that they could say, I have 500 friends. Well, I have 1,000 friends. It was a status symbol, how many friends you had on Facebook. Facebook has an estimated 2.5 billion clients. And I'm sure that number is probably old now too. And a lot of them were children at that time. Our next slide says, how many Facebook friends do you have? Think about your personal Facebook account. How many friends do you have on there? Have you met all of them in real life? A lot of times when kids have these profiles, like on Instagram and Snapchat, there's a lot of friends on there that might have been friends of friends or people that they never even met before, but those people are actually following these children online. And if they've never met them in real life, or if you've never met these kids in real life, or kids, I put that in quotes because we don't know if they're actually kids or not, because again, they can make up whatever persona they want. Do your kids really need 700 or 1,200 friends or followers on these social media sites? I mean, how big is their social bubble? You got to imagine, if they have a very small social bubble with just the friends they have at school, maybe some family members, things like that. But if they're trying to get as many followers as they can, that social bubble gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Our next slide has some examples of some other social networking sites that are out there. Again, this slide was put together somewhat back, so a lot of these probably aren't even in existence anymore, and there's probably a lot more that have come into existence since I put this slide together. Going into a little bit more detail about what TikTok is all about. It's 15-second videos, usually accompanied by music. They're doing a lot of dances and things like that and lip syncing along to the music that's on there. There's no age verification protocols. They can make up whatever they want to make up on there. Again, a lot of kids are falsifying their dates of birth so that they can get onto here before they turn 13. They should be 13 years of age to use it. There's 800 million active viewers. 25% of viewers are teenage or younger. Again, preteens are getting onto this site. There's a lot of sexually seductive content, inappropriate language, and you don't need an account to view videos or follow users, which is actually kind of a scary thing. If you know that your preteen is on this site and anybody can watch the videos that they post on there, you have no idea what those people's intentions are. Down at Instagram, you sign up to see photos and videos from your friends. You log in through Facebook, or you can just log in through your own account on Instagram. You have an ability to tag a location, and as harmless as a location tag may seem to a child, predators and those with bad intentions can use them in the worst of ways, where they try to find out where these kids are posting these videos from, and they can actually try to locate where they are and maybe possibly meet up with those kids. Snapchat, you view live stories from around the world and explore news in Discover. Pictures are timed to disappear, but screenshots can be taken and the image distributed. So a kid will take a picture of themselves and send it to a friend, and it's going to disappear in 15 or 20 seconds, and then it'll be gone forever. That's not necessarily true. Somebody can take a screenshot of that picture and distribute it wherever they want to send it to. And honestly, if you take a picture of yourself and you post it online, it's going to be on a server somewhere in the world. So even if you take a picture and think it disappears, it doesn't actually disappear. It's going to be on a computer system somewhere in the world. The user agreement requires your address book to be uploaded to their servers. So even if a friend of yours doesn't want to be on Snapchat, you have to upload your contacts to this system, and they can be getting directed advertisements for Snapchat and things like that. So it can be kind of dangerous, and unwilling people are honestly getting things that they don't want to get online. So teens are using these social networks, but there's other things out there as well. We have Kik. If you haven't heard of Kik, it's spelled K-I-K. It's a photo and video sharing site. You basically are you video chat with people on Kik. And it can be used for networking and has been used to produce, store, and distribute child pornography. Unfortunately, people get on these sites and they convince kids to do things that they wouldn't normally do, and then that video is out there and they can distribute it wherever they want to send it to. And the photos and videos are easily copied and distributed to other sources. We also have Omegle, which is another online chat site. Again, it's like FaceTiming with other people from around the world. It's an online chat site. You're paired with random strangers and video streaming similar to like a Skype or FaceTime. Ability to text chat along with the video, and also been used to produce, store, and distribute child pornography. Now, one thing that I have not included this slide into my presentation, but there's another site called Chatroulette, and I know we were talking about that yesterday. And Chatroulette is basically another site where you are randomly paired up with someone online. And I know when we were doing an internet safety thing at a DARE conference that we were doing, we had an agent from ICAC, which is the Internet Crimes Against Children, and he came in and set up a profile. He said he was like a 13-year-old boy on there. And he set up the profile, went on Chatroulette, and within about 10 seconds, he was getting requests to talk to these people on Chatroulette. And when you clicked on it, immediately it was somebody that had the camera focused in on their genitalia. And obviously, he set up this profile, said he was a 13-year-old boy, and sure enough, there was an adult male's genitalia on the screen. So that, to me, was scary. And I don't even have kids. I don't personally have kids myself, but if a 13-year-old can go on this site and within 10 seconds having adult males showing their genitalia to a small child, essentially, is really, really scary. which is another reason that I do encourage parents to put monitoring software on their child's devices, where if they're sending a text, it goes to mom and dad's phone. If they're receiving a text, it goes to mom and dad's phone. If they go onto a website, those websites will get sent to mom and dad's phone so that they can see what their child is doing. And it's not about a trust issue where you say you trust your child. I totally understand that, and your child might be the most forthright, upstanding young person, but unfortunately there's a lot of things online that convinces kids to do things that they wouldn't normally do. And I know you and I talked about how one parent, well, I check my child's phone every quarter. So every 3 months they're checking their child's phone. And that is not nearly enough, because within minutes they can make a choice that could potentially have long-reaching consequences to it. So once every 3 months checking your child's phone is probably not what you should be doing. It should be, probably once a week or once every couple of days, just to see what your child is on. And it's not because you don't trust your child, it's because you want to keep them safe. And I mean, that's our ultimate goal during this talk, is to keep children safe when they're online. Now, the next few slides are some different crimes that have happened on Kik, on Omegle, and on Snapchat. I'll let you take a look at those slides so that you can, if you need to, pause the video so that you can see what the crimes are all about. I'm not going to go into detail about them, but these are just a very small sampling of some of the crimes that have happened on these different websites here in the state of Wisconsin. Now, the top 5 internet dangers for kids: predators, obviously, social networking sites and chat rooms; data theft. Maybe as your child is younger, they probably don't have a lot of banking information and things online. However, if you're starting your child off young with a bank account and things like that, most parents, they want to do online banking. So there might be some data that could come out of your child's system that could actually harm them in the future. Malware, obviously, if they're opening up emails or messages that might have some malware attached to it, it could put a virus onto your computer system. There's a lot of inappropriate content like pornography, and cyberbullying. That is a big thing nowadays where, when we were kids, if you were being bullied at school, when you went home, you were safe. But nowadays, with the computer systems the way they are, kids can be bullied basically 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So they kind of have it a little worse off than we did. So cyberbullying is a huge thing, and unfortunately, it happens every day in Wisconsin and all around the world, basically. And I have to tell you, I personally have a zero tolerance policy for it. And I tell the kids that bullying might be against school rules, but can also be against the law as well. It can be considered disorderly conduct or harassment, where a child can actually get into legal trouble for that. And kids do go to jail for things like that. We have secure detention here in Wisconsin, and I know that there have been a lot of kids that have been put into secure detention because of the things that they're doing online. So what can parents do? Big thing is, tell your kids to not give out any personal information online, like, their full names, addresses, phone numbers, things like that. Don't give out the city you live in, what school you go to, what your mascots are, your team's names, and try to engage as many privacy settings as you can to try to lock down that system as best as you can. If your child is posting pictures, if they're on a sports team and they're posting pictures with their school's name on it, it makes it very easy for a predator to be able to track down that child. When you're posting things online, your friends, it makes it easy for your friends to find you, but there are other people that can find you as well. And you got to think about all the different, how do I want to say this? The bad people that are out there that are looking to harm your child. So you have to really lock down your system so that that doesn't happen. The next slide, it says, what school do they go to? It's actually pretty easy to look at that slide and find out what school those kids are going to. So what we're instructing kids to do is not give out personal information online. If their friends are out there, they're going to know how to get in contact with your children. But try not to put out a lot of personal information online. Something that kids really should think about is the fact that not only are their friends going to be able to see what's on that content, but as their kids get older and they apply for a scholarship, or they apply to a school, or even later when they're applying for a job, a lot of times these scholarship committees, the colleges, and future employers might actually ask for their logins to their social media accounts, or at least friend them on their social media accounts, so that they can see what kind of person they're giving money to for college, or letting into their school, or getting a job to. Because if they are sitting in an interview wearing a suit or a nice business attire, and they seem like a very nice, outgoing, forthright type person, and then they go on their social media site and they find out what this person's personality really is about, and if that personality doesn't match the school that they're applying for, that scholarship they're applying for, or the job they're applying for, they're probably not going to get that job. So it's something that's really important for kids to think about when they're posting things online. Something I haven't mentioned already is when they're posting something, they should actually run it through the grandma test, is what I call it. So they really have to think about, if they're posting a video, would their grandma be proud of that video that they're putting on there? And if it's suggestive or revealing or something like that, and grandma would not be happy with it, that's probably not something that they should be posting online. And that's something that kids really need to think about, because it is going to go beyond their local circle of friends or their local social bubble. It is going to get much bigger as they get older.
So some environments can be questionable whether or not it's okay to take pictures or videos in. Some of them can be out of our children being naive, and I love that about our children. I love the way that Good Shepherd parents have done a wonderful job of protecting our children in so many ways, in raising children and keeping their innocence. But with that, can you talk to the parents about some areas and environments that the kids need to be really cautious about filming or taking pictures in, and why they need to be cautious?
Sure. There's a lot of different places where they're filming these videos may not be the most appropriate. If you are filming something, for example, if you're getting ready for a sports game, and their tradition is to do a quick TikTok video before every sports game, and you start to normalize filming in that environment, and you're not really aware of what's going on around you. Most of the time they're filming this into a mirror, and if they're not really paying attention to what's going on in the background, if one of the players is running late and suddenly they run into the locker room to start changing into their uniform, and you're doing your TikTok video and you're not really aware that they're behind you, there could be some privacy issues there. And another thing is, no matter where a child is filming a TikTok video, they could have some people in the background that really don't want to have anything to do with that. And they could run into some privacy issues because of that.
What steps or ways do you recommend for parents to protect their kids online and with their devices?
Well, there are a lot of different ways that a parent can help protect their children online. The first thing is there are contracts that parents can look up online, social media and basic internet safety contracts that they can go through with their children to have basic rules set up in advance before any bad things happen. So there are a list of expectations that a parent can put on this list. You can customize them. If you just put into the Google machine internet safety contracts, there's a lot of different ones that come up, and you can probably edit however you want to fit into your family's needs and wants. And you can go through and just spell out in advance what your expectations are for your child online and have some sort of consequences if they do violate this contract. And one thing that I do encourage is not to get angry with your child if they do something bad online, because if you get angry that first time, that child is just going to clam up next time they mess up online, and they're not going to talk to you about it. And that small little molehill that starts with a small problem actually turns into a huge problem later on. Turns into a mountain of issues that you would have to wade your way through to help get your child back to where they were prior to that mountain of problems basically accruing. So if you don't get mad at your child, understand that your child is going to mess up. I mean, they're kids. They're going to make mistakes. But keep those lines of communication open with your child so that they continually talk to you about what they're seeing online, and that will give you a better idea of how to protect them in the future, especially if they're continually talking to you about it. There's also a lot of different monitoring softwares that you can actually install on your child's phone or device where those texts come to you as well as the person that they're sending them to. Pictures and videos can go through monitoring software so that, if it's something that's a little bit more suggestive, it won't allow it to be uploaded online, or you won't allow it to be uploaded online, where you can have it go through you first before it gets sent onto that social media site, so that you can have final approval before those videos or pictures get posted online. Each application that gets put onto a child's phone has its own privacy settings. So again, we talked about this earlier about locking down those privacy settings so that it makes it very difficult for your child to have information put out where a predator or somebody up to no good basically has access to your child's account. Your phone also, every phone also has privacy settings, and you want to try to make sure that those get locked down as well. One thing that I do want to touch on is that parents should continue to educate themselves on these social media sites. Don't just trust your child as to what they're telling you, even though they might actually give you quite an education just in and of themselves, but you should also continue to educate yourself. Typing things into that Google machine actually does go a long way towards educating yourself as to what the different things that kids are going online for. There are a lot of dangers on the internet with cyberbullying and things like that. Make sure that you set up those guidelines with your kids. Stress to your children to not forward inappropriate messages or photos if you receive them, and talk about how to report it. This is something that's really important. When something bad happens to a child online, a lot of times a kid will just delete everything and pretend it never happened. That's the last thing that we want to see. What we encourage you guys to do is save all of those chats, save all the pictures that maybe your child has either sent or has gotten from someone. And if you deem it necessary to call law enforcement, We want to be able to have that evidence to be able to track down who this person is and possibly prosecute that person for what they're doing online. So we encourage you not to delete things, save it on their device. We can actually take a device like a tablet or a cell phone and actually download everything from that device. Even things that may have been supposedly deleted, there are still remnants of that information on that device. So we can actually go in and extract that information and get a lot of information from it. But we do encourage you to not delete the things that are on that phone. One thing that's really important is that you need to teach your kids that there is nothing good that can come from them taking a naked photo of themselves. Nothing good can happen from that. Oh, by the way, something else that we didn't mention, if your child is under the age of 18 and they take a naked photo of themselves, they have now just produced child pornography, which is a felony. And if they save it on their phone, they're now in possession of that child pornography. And if they send it to a friend, they have now distributed child pornography. So there's 3 felonies that are committed just from taking one photo. So that's something that kids really need to be aware of. And they're not really thinking along those lines. They're not thinking about the long-term consequences of their actions. So that's something that they need to be educated about. How can you prevent the kids from doing bad stuff? Make sure that their computers are in a public place. And I understand that kids now have their cell phones and they say, well, I use this as an alarm, so I have to have it in my room. Alarm clocks are $5 on Amazon. They don't need to use their phone as an alarm. And if they have a Fitbit, like I have my Fitbit here, I actually use this as my alarm. My phone is never in my bedroom when I'm sleeping at night, but my alarm still goes off. It still buzzes on my wrist. So if they have something like that, it makes it easier to get up in the morning. Public charging stations at night. Try to have your kids have a public charging station somewhere in the house where it is not in their bedrooms at night, because they really don't need to be texting somebody at 3 a.m. They should be sleeping, getting ready for school the next day. Make sure that they're following the rules and guidelines that you set up. You got to monitor the kids' cell phone activity. Make sure that you have access to your kids' accounts. Restrict online accessibility to others, for others to your family. You can have a setting on the phones where they can't get online after like 8 p.m. and before 6 a.m. so that they're not online all through the night. I know there's been a lot of kids that in my DARE classes that they look like they're half asleep, and I ask them, didn't you get a very good sleep last night? And they say, well, no, I was playing video games online last night. So kids are doing these things in the middle of the night when you're not even aware that they're doing it. Google and see what information is available about your family. Sometimes you might be surprised if you Google your name or your child's name and see what comes up online, see what their online footprint is. Their online footprint. You got to really check to see what that is. Sometimes that footprint is very, very big. Use privacy settings, and also using that monitoring software is going to go a long way to keeping your kids safe online. One thing that is hugely important is that, keep that line of communication open. Talk to your kids about what's going on online. Make it normalized for you to have these conversations with your child, and it's going to make it a lot easier for them to open up to you and keep you updated as to what's going on online. Our goal really is to keep kids safe. We want to make sure that they become the best possible version of themselves that they can possibly be. And a lot of times, online things can have a huge impact on their mental health and their mental well-being. I know when I was in school, I actually was bullied a lot, and I started to feel depressed because of that. And with kids being online, again, they can be bullied 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And a lot of times they can put a brave face on it with you, but inside they're feeling a lot of negative things. And if you keep those lines of communication open, it can go a long way to, maybe fixing or helping that child get through those bad times because of what they're seeing online. One of the things that we're trying to prevent with this internet safety talk is human trafficking. And unfortunately, that has happened a lot in Wisconsin and all over the United States, where kids think that they're meeting up with one person and they meet up with somebody totally different, and that kid gets taken away. And the last thing that we want to have happen is a child to be sold basically into slavery for slave labor, sexual purposes, things like that. That's the last thing that we want to see happen. So that's why we need to keep those lines of communication open with your child so that, you know, somebody doesn't want to meet up with your child and they think they're meeting a 13-year-old girl and they meet this, back to my example of the 45-year-old guy who lives in his mom's basement who takes that kid away. And there have been instances where those parents never see that child again, and they didn't have any idea that they were actually talking to this person until we were able to take some of those devices and talk to the internet service providers and find out what sites they've been on and things like that. And the parents had no idea that this was happening. So that's why those monitoring softwares and talking to your kids about what they're doing online really goes a long way to keeping them safe. I do have a lot of resources, and there's a lot of resources online as to what you can do to educate yourself. Just a few of them are the Connect Safely website, All Safe Sites, Common Sense Media, Trend Micro, and there's a lot of United States government sites that have a lot to do with internet safety. Those are just a few of the internet resources that are out there for parents to go on and see what kinds of things are coming up down the pike and what kids are going on to and things like that and how to keep them safe. So I do encourage you to educate yourself as to what is out there to help you help your child.
All right, well, this concludes our discussion on internet safety. I want to thank Deputy Bill Nias for staying with us today and giving us some great information. Thank you, parents, for watching this and loving and supporting your children, keeping them safe online. Thank you to our community and anyone else in our community watching this and supporting Good Shepherd Lutheran School.
Well, I wanted to say thank you for listening to me drone on today. If you do have questions for me, at the very beginning you probably saw a slide that had my email address on it. If you need to go back and see what that email address is, feel free to do so. And if you do have questions, I'm at the sheriff's office at least for the next 4 years before I retire. So if you do have questions, feel free to email me. And if I don't have an answer for you, I have a big network of people that I can contact and find out an answer for you, and I will get back to you. So thank you.